We're going back to Cali. We're going back to Cali. We're going back to Cali. Yeah, I definitely think so. For those of you that know the old school hip hop, you kind of might get that reference. For those of you that don't get the reference, you're totally lost. You can Google it. Anyway, today we're talking with David Rivera here on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. He's the head coach at Mount San Antonio College, which just recently picked up the first California Community College State Championship in school history. This is a league that goes back to the 50s. It's the fall league. It started wrestling in the fall of 1982. We'll go over some of the nuances about the two-year programs in California. There's 21 of them, if I'm not mistaken. Coach Rivera, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate bringing me on.
So when you look at Coach Rivera here, for those of you looking on the video, there's a striking resemblance to somebody who has the same last name and who played for the University of Minnesota and who spent time coaching in Virginia, North Dakota State, Bakersfield. So let's just let people know that this isn't an Ancestry.com type of dig here. You're the older brother of one Manny Rivera.
Yes, I am the older brother. Yes.
Do you still get the better of him on the mat?
I hope so. We haven't wrestled in a while, but been a while. But usually big brother gets it.
Yeah, big brother. So your career, you wrestled in the NAIA for Coach John Petty at Embry-Riddle, were a two-time NAIA runner-up. When the division really was starting to jump up and get bigger, for a while it was really, really small, and then you had teams they started to do the whole enter 2 at a weight class and get 12 at the championships. And from looking at where you're at now as a junior college coach to where you send a lot of kids to that NAIA, to that non-Division I level a lot of the times, what's it like for you to see not just your alma mater, but the entire NAIA just kind of blossom and come up as they're approaching almost 80 teams right now?
Yeah, it is really awesome to see that whole organization just blossom. Like you said, it's growing. I send guys out to NAIAs, and there's some good coaches out there that are putting the 100% effort into those programs. So
well, one of those good coaches that are putting people into those programs is you, and you've been at Mount San Antonio for a couple of years now, taking over now your assistant coach, Larry Watanabe, who's been there, almost three decades now. And first of all, talk about how you landed at Mount San Antonio College, first as assistant and then as the head coach.
Well, I after high school, I attended Mount Sac. Didn't have the grades to move on to a 4-year, so I spent a year here getting my grades up. Once I got my grades up, I did. So I was spending a whole year with Coach Watanabe, and my brother Freddie, my older brother, had wrestled here at Mount Sac as well. And they always ran a Monday and Wednesday night program here that everybody attended here on our community. So I was very regular here at the college. Once I got there, got out of college, I started coaching at Cerritos with Coach Glassy. Spent 1 season there, and Coach Watanabe called me up and asked me, "You want to come and coach with me?" And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, if I wanted to go into the coaching life or not. Put a thought to it, and I just told him, "Yeah, let's do it." So got here in 2006, started as assistant coach.
The uniqueness of California, I know we've had previous coaches on from, now retired Coach Dave Pacheco at Sac City, Paul Keesaw, Fresno City, Donnie Gary out at Cerritos. You mentioned that school there. Of course, you mentioned Coach Glassy, who's kind of been everywhere in California. You can't throw a rock in Southern California and not know somebody who knows Coach Glassy there. So I think I was on a trip with him in Russia one time. It's one of those things where you just he's one of those guys that knows everybody, especially out there. But the opportunities that exist in the California community college system, it's a fall league, as we know, but you went through that. You saw that. What are some of the things that kind of get overlooked when it comes to saying this is an opportunity we have here in the state of California to really put people on the next level? How do you feel people should be kind of taking advantage of that more so?
I think guys that come here are taking wrestling serious, so they are putting 100% effort into them, and as well, it's just there's quality wrestlers here in our junior college system here. So I've always said if I had an opportunity, I would take my guys out to the JUCOs and compete at the nationals, and I 100% believe that would have done pretty well.
Yeah, it's interesting because the only school that's done that in recent years was Lassen. They did that, and of course the monster guys that came through there in the late 90s. Now Lassen back in the California community college system is, there is some crossover in terms of competition later in the California season and earlier in the NJCAA teams. Clackamas and Highline and the schools from Oregon and Washington will come down and compete in events, and you'll meet in the middle at places like Simpson up in Reading, for example. But when we look at the dynamics of it, last year you guys did not have a season. What were the difficulties in trying to build a team, because you have a short turnover, 1-2 years you get people in, you don't really have the time to build a roster over 4 or 5 years. But what were the difficulties you had in trying to kind of restart from scratch as everybody did?
It wasn't so much of a scratch; it just kept my guys around and kept them somewhat motivated and tell them we're going to, as soon as we get our opportunity to get on back on the mat, we're going to be going 100% because we don't know what's going to happen again. With COVID going on, I wasn't sure. But I told them once we get an opportunity to get on the mat, I guarantee you guys we're going to go 100% and we're going to do our best we can.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the California Community College system, you've got kind of recruiting areas. You kind of sit in kind of the geographic circle around your campus. What type of areas do you draw from that people maybe from outside of California that do know some of the areas in California, but where is your main recruiting base in terms of how you populate wrestlers to your school?
It's mostly the San Gabriel Valley in the Inland Empire area. We got a couple of really good schools in the area that help us and send us guys. But most of the time, they're kids that just didn't have it quite there at the high school level, and just they want to continue wrestling. Those kids we're looking for. So
One of the fun things I see, and you see it from photos from Tony Rotundo and John Sachs, who have shot photos for the league for a long, long time, is the further south you get, NorCal not so much. When you get into the Southern California counties and the schools, the quality of ink on the wrestlers go. I'm talking about it's like one of the most tattooed leagues in the country. I'm a tattoo guy. I've got several, and so I look at them and I'm looking at the art and I'm looking at like, holy crap, look at that guy's sleeve. And of course, aesthetically, it creates just a different look than you see at some of the other college levels.
I've actually I've noticed that we do have a lot of athletes that have tattoos, but didn't really think about it in the geographic area, like who has more tattoo guys or not. But it's good to know.
It's like I said, it's more of a Southern California thing than it is a Northern California thing, at least in the California Community College go. But let's talk. We'll talk a little bit more about the growth of the division in the league. We've had a couple teams come back. We've had a couple teams that were struggling with numbers after COVID. But you guys step up. You go 13-0 in dual meets. You win the state dual meet championship, and that sets you guys up pretty well to go into the state championships in Norwalk. And when you talk to your team at the beginning of the year in September, when you guys wrestle your first matches, realistically, the goals to win a state championship are what you guys have. But how realistic did you think they were, and what did you tell your team when you were assembling them and you were getting ready to go on the mats for the first time this year?
Like I said, I think that's always been our goal as a staff. We're always is to win a state title and push our guys on to the next level. And that's what I always tell them. Don't just shoot to be on our team, but shoot to be on a state championship team and work towards that. I've never really thought about, we're going to get third. It's always been, and I think that's something we as a coaching staff do a good job of pushing them and just working them towards that goal.
In the past, you guys have peaked at number 2, just being so close to winning that championship. And, when you get so close, how much does it drive you as the coach to finally get over that hump and finally win one?
It feels good. I said it, but it's not what coaching is not what for the state championship. I like working with the athletes, honestly. It's really good. Sometimes I ask myself how much more they need me than I need them. They need this program to keep them in campus, on school, more than I need them, because there's a lot of wrestlers out there, and sometimes these guys struggle. So being able to help them out, it's always fun. See them grow.
From a technical standpoint, how much of the coaching at this level is hands-on? Having seen your brother go through Division I, yourself go through this level in the NAI, how much teaching is there in terms of wrestling abilities, tactics, and in fine-tuning a single leg or working on new top work, for example?
It just vary. We always get some really good kids that are state placers, and some guys are still learning. I never shy for someone that wants to learn, and we keep it very basic and fundamental. So I think that's our biggest thing. We keep it very fundamental and build a strong foundation from that. But it is hands-on, yes.
When looking at California's, kind of their style, a lot of neutral wrestling, a lot of slickness, a lot of quickness on the feet. You've got a varying, diverse set of types of athletes that come through Northern California, Southern California with the community college systems. They end up at the Division twos, they end up at the NAIAs. But when you look at your team this year, how many guys did you think had a realistic shot of actually winning this thing?
I thought I had at least four for sure. I thought we were gonna be able to get 4 state champs, and highest at maybe five if I had a good day. But things don't always work out, and I just two state champs, and we'll take it.
And of course, mentioned the multiple entries at the NAIA level. That's just something that the California Community College system added a couple years ago. You had two teammates meet in the finals at 133. What's that like as a coach to see both of your guys battle for it?
It's awesome, and then it's stressful too. You know, I want both of them to win, so it's unfortunately somebody has to lose, and like I said, you go out there and wrestle, and if it was somebody else, you would wrestle hard. So just visualize it's somebody else for one match. So
Sometimes I've seen teammates meet in the NAIA finals, and sometimes there's coaches in the chairs, and sometimes there's just four empty chairs, two on each side, and then there's the trainer probably going back and forth. Well, what did you guys do? Did you guys sit in the chairs, or did you just leave them blank and let them go?
I just thought it was best for us to sit on the chairs and show them we're there supporting no matter what.
So which chair did you sit in, or is it you just draw straws?
we just pick a chair. It was not what side. It was just pick a chair and enjoy the moment. Those are rare moments when you have two guys wrestling each other. So I tell them enjoy the moment. Try not to coach as much as you want to get and hop out. I just try to keep it limited and just cheer them on.
You talked about knowing Coach Watanabe from your time beforehand, having wrestled there, and then when you look at a championship coach and when they win, sometimes the table is set up for you. It's not like you have to do every single bit. We look at Dan Gable at Iowa. Gary Kirtleminer set the table for him. You look at even I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Tony Dungy set the table for John Gruden. So how well was the table set for you to be able to sit there? I've got this coach. We're going to take it to the next level.
Oh yeah, it was. He was. He had to spend about 15, 16 years. He spent coaching high school and moved into junior college, and he always had the good teams, and just somehow it wasn't the atmosphere at the right time, And I kind of changed that coming in as assistant coach, build that culture, and believing that we could win a state title, and we're gonna do it. I just said we're gonna do it, coach, and I told him we're gonna do it, and I was gonna put my 100% effort in doing it.
In the coaching fraternity out there, it's kind of different. You've got coaches that have been at places a long time. Jake Fitzpatrick up at Santa Rosa has been there forever. Until Pacheco retired. Marcus Gales has come back out to California, and then we've got Donnie and Paul have had a good run at their respective schools. But what's it like to finally knock off some of those old guard? Be like, aha! I finally got you. I finally got you.
It feels good. Like I said, I've always been close, and for some reason or other, we just don't come up short a little bit, and that's life, But it didn't stop me from continuing to push forward and believing that we're going to do it. So I said, you guys, Kisa. I remember when I first got hired as the head coach, I looked at him, I told him, Kisa, I'm going to beat you. And I remember he said, that's good. I want to get motivated. I'm coming after you. And this year's finally got me one, huh? I'm like, yes, finally.
Yeah, because I've noticed it comes in waves, because some years Santa Ana and Coach Silva had some really good teams and putting guys into the next level. And, of course, Cerritos has kind of had a revival in the last couple of years. But, again, everybody was stopped last year. So let's go back to that a little bit. And how much of a issue was it? And you said you're trying to keep the guys in school and in around campus. But how much of a struggle was that for you coaching to keep them there? But you personally to say, all right, I got to do this, because I take it this is not your 100% full-time job.
Well, I'm a full-time instructor here on campus.
Instructor, okay. So the wrestling coaches, because that's one. I know Pacheco was a teacher and a wrestling coach. So a lot of the coaches are part-timers too, right?
Yeah. So I'm a full-time professor here on campus, kinesiology instructor. Then I did the coaching part of it as well. But it's more anything. I had great assistants that also helped me out, keep these guys around. So that's been very helpful.
I want to dial back to the tournament a little bit. You had two guys in the finals, Jason Valencia and David Saenz, and you sit there and you're like, How did you think that was going to turn? I mean, was that as you expected? Whereas Valencia got the better of him in the room, and that's how 1 and 2 were going to be, or did you see that going, a flip flop either way?
I could have gone either way. I know I've known Jason since he was a kid. His dad coached me as club kid, so I've known him for a while. And David comes in. He's a young guy that's hungry and wants to be competitive. Um, and David's had beat him twice before during the season. So it's kind of interesting to see that. I wish it would have been a little bit more competitive on David's side, and maybe being a freshman in the spotlight
Mm-hmm.
kind of got to him a little bit pressure. But Jason definitely stepped up this time and left his mark on there as a state champ.
And it's one of those things. I'm gonna look at some of the names and sit there and you see signs. You're like, that a relative of the kid that wrestles at Cal Poly?
No,
No, so it's
no.
not. So you people assume there's going to be a Valencia doing this thing. Well, no. And then they see a sign. You're like, okay, that name looks like the guy that was at Fresno now is at Cal Poly. So have to ask that question because a lot of the bio information doesn't quite exist. And I want to again throw a shout out to the California Community College Athletic Association who really have amped up the coverage and at least providing standings. It used to be like pulling teeth to try to find results. Now it's only pulling one tooth instead of pulling four molars out. So they're doing a lot better job at helping things keep up. I also want to talk about your 74 pounder. What's Wetzel Hill? What's special about this kid?
He said he's always been very competitive. He once he started believing that he could do it, he's gonna do it, and that was the biggest thing for him. It wasn't technical. He was been very well coached as a high school um, kid, and he came from Mark Munoz and Turica Hills High School, and it's just more him believing that he's going to do it and not putting doubt in his mind. And that's what I told the coaching staff. As soon as he starts believing he could do it, he's going to do it. And sure enough, he said he's going to win it. And I'm going to let him. He's going to win it. He said he's going to win it, so he believed it.
Well, you mentioned Mark Munoz, and that kind of goes back to that recruiting area. How much of these personal relationships are gained over the years to where sometimes there's that college coach that's got that high school coach that he knew from back in the day that would funnel him kids. Well, you got a guy like Munoz. He's got a title under his belt. I mean, the guy knows his wrestling. So, what's it like? Is there any added pressure when you've got a guy with that type of resume on him sending his kids to you?
It's no pressure. Like I said, I think we did very well as a coaching staff, coaching guys up, and sometimes it's more on them than the coaching staff. We don't have, like I said, dorms on campus. So it's the hardest part because they have to drive in from wherever they're staying at. So it sometimes gets hard on there, and it's like they got to really want it.
And that makes it, I guess, hard for you as a coach, is where Manny went away and he was in a dorm in Minnesota, 1,000 miles plus from home, where any outside distractions from the neighborhood, they're not there. Whereas your kids, they still have that. The ones that are trying to get out and get that education and move on to the next level, they're still confronted with those hurdles every day.
Yeah.
I mean, how tough is that to balance the work life balance of a wrestling coach versus being also a mentor?
It's challenging sometimes because you got to be open to what's going on in their lives. As much as I want to be strict on them, you got to understand they all come from different backgrounds, and they're all struggling one way or another. And being able to find something you have in common to pull them in and make them buy in is key.
In terms of, I guess, exposure, how much would you say that not just your school, but maybe just the entire league would is known within California? Because I've never been to a California state tournament, so I'm curious. Is like, oh yeah, so and so, yeah, he's going down to Mount Sac this year, or so and so, oh yeah, he's going to go here, and then he's going to end up at San Francisco State. So how much of the, I guess, California culture really respects and represents the community colleges there?
It's I say half of people really push the kids to go junior college. It's very affordable. If you're not getting the big scholarship, it's very affordable to go to community college, and it's, I said, there's very well coaches all across the community college. Like you said, you mentioned some great names that have great coaching uh, background and wrestling backgrounds as well. So I've always told the people, if you don't go to my school, there's a lot of great coaches out there in the community college as well.
At one point, you and your brother Manny were both head coaches at the same time within your home state of California. How much did you guys bounce ideas off one another, or knowing seeing what might work at Bakersfield might actually work at your place and vice versa?
It was funny because we did talk a lot. We was constantly talking to each other regarding athletes that he was looking at, and I always kept an eye for him. Hey, look at this individual and stuff like that. So it was great having him be a head coach here in California. Literally, we were on the phone probably every other day, just having that kind of similar schedule of coaching, and we had a lot of things in common. So it's always conversations were up.
What's the best thing for you about coaching?
Just helping out the athletes. Like I said, they're sometimes I see athletes not have the best coaches out of high school and don't give them the right direction. And me being able to help them out, follow their goals of being an athlete, student athlete. It's always fun for me.
Did you ever think you would be a head wrestling coach? I mean, coming out of Embry Riddle, which is known for its aeronautical program, I mean, there's a couple career paths you could go, but college professor, instructor, and wrestling coach. I mean, how high was that on your to do list as an adult?
It wasn't honestly. I was trying to go into law enforcement and spend about a year in correction officer, and just didn't enjoy it lifestyle, and didn't. I felt like I could do more helping kids out and coaching them, and that's literally I had to sit down and think about that path. Do I want to go into coaching or step away from coaching and just go into law enforcement? And I think about it, I'm like, it would have been different. But I enjoy this a lot. So
Well, here you get to enforce the law a little bit as the coach, and
sure.
you don't have the danger that's associated with that profession either, other than saving your knees when you're still scrapping with these kids, huh?
Yeah, try not to do that as much no more. Getting older it hurts. So, but
Yeah. So, how much? I was talking to Steve Martin years ago when he was at that place in Norfolk where I graduated from, and I was like, Steve, we're talking. He got the job at 36, and I guess it was a couple years into it. And I'm like, Steve, how often do you roll around? And he's like, twice a week I can do it. 3 days a week I can't do it. So, how many days a week are you going live and
I
mixing it up with the guys?
I try to get on there. I said this year's probably the least amount I got on the mat. Just for some reason I always have something going on, talking to somebody, get something going. But at least twice a week, that's the goal. Always try and get on the mat and wrestle at least twice a week, or just drill with somebody and get in there with somebody. So, but
Speaking,
definitely, I did less this year. I know that.
I don't want to do any of that. I joke that I have a job in wrestling that involves me not getting beat up by kids. So whether it be high school or college, that's not something I do. So and tying this thing into that place in Norfolk, one of the guys on your staff, Chris McCotty, two-time All-American, California native, a guy you and your family have known for a long time. What was it like to approach Chris and bring him onto the staff?
Like I said, I've had brought him out for a camp and a son coach, and he has really good command on when he coaches. He asks a lot from the athletes. So, like I said, I heard through the grapevine that he might be coming home, and I just reached out to me, try to get him before somebody else got hold of him, and I offer him, hey, this you might be interested in. And luckily enough, he did accept. And I said, I kind of we've known each other since we were kids, so he was barely coming into wrestling when I was exiting out the club, and I remember you guys still when I was little, and you guys were seniors in high school, and so he always we always kept in touch through wrestling.
Yeah, just I joked that I wasn't going to bring this up, but I am going to bring it up. What is up with the man's hair right now? Come on, you got a nice, good close cut there. McCarty had the short hair, and then all of a sudden he went surfer boy with the dyed blonde. Now he looks like a lead singer of a rock band.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. He started hanging out closer to the beach. He's definitely filling that hair.
Now, also on your staff, your mentor on the staff there. What's it like to kind of have him still there? Obviously it's your team now, but this is a guy. Do you feel? I don't know if you say if looking over your shoulder is the right thing, but do you look back and kind of say, you know what, I want to make this guy proud that he chose me to take over for him.
I always feel want to make him proud, and more than anything, he keeps me in line because I can't do that. You'll get in trouble. He's the one that,
When you know the administration for that long, it's a good resource to have.
and he's like, yeah, that's okay to do, but don't do that because then it's gonna come back and haunt you. And I'm like, okay, I trust his wisdom. So uh, it's always nice to have on my staff. I'm just talking to him, asking for advice. Still to this day, I still ask for advice, and he's been around, and his advice is always good.
Drop some knowledge on me about Robert Dominguez. Don't know much about him, but he's been on your staff for a while as well.
Hey, he's been on my staff for 10 years now. He's been 10 years, and he wrestled on Mount Sac. He was a Mount Sac athlete. Left to Lindenwood, wrestled for Lindenwood University out in Missouri. He was part of the couple of national teams out there, 89 national teams, and came back and kind of just wandered into a room and wanted to come back into coaching and wrestling. And we we offered him a position as assistant coach, and he's been great. He does his really good job of keeping guys motivated and just keep them all together. So
Again, going back to just your personnel in terms of the area, you're just outside of LA. Go east a little bit, and that's where you run into Walnut. And the wrestling culture in parts of California, of course, everybody knows how good the Valley is, and everybody knows how good pockets of the southern sections are, and then down near San Diego. But what's the best thing about wrestling in California from your perspective?
and it's just cultural. The people who buy into it, they're gonna buy into it, and there's always rooms available to compete at. Or there's always people looking to get better. So um, opportunities are there. So if you think about it, it's like anybody that wants to get better, they're gonna get better looking for the right avenue of coaching.
One thing we like to bring up is the growth of wrestling, as we've seen a lot of these small colleges and the enrollment driven schools get it. And again, they've been the beneficiaries of a lot of these California kids coming out of the 2-year system. I know I announce the NAIA championships every year, and I'm making sure that I'm looking up, okay, the past All-Americans from other divisions or the NAI or transfers in from other schools, but you also got to count those California kids because they come out and they really perform well. I know that you're sending kids, a lot of them are going to places like in the middle of Nebraska. And you're like, how do you sell that? So how do you sell that education to say, all right, hey, I know a guy in Hastings, Nebraska. Or I know a guy in Jamestown, North Dakota. Or Des Moines a little less harder of a sell if you're Grandview. But how do you sell that pitch to, hey, you're gonna have to leave California and get that 4-year degree?
And I don't think, and there's some NAI schools out here in California that I've done a great job with my guys, and
Yeah, Life Pacific and Vanguard are new programs out there as well.
Vanguard's doing a great job there, and Menlo has done a great job with my
Menlo
guys.
up north.
Yeah, so Life Pacific is transitioning with new coach, and they're going to get better as well. And they're down the street from me, so that's good to know that they're getting better because that makes the whole areas and get better at wrestling. But yeah, I just got to tell the guys it's only 2 more years of school, and that's going to go so much quicker than spending 4 years. So make the commitments and get it done. And like I said, I send guys everywhere from NYU to Moorhead up to everywhere, anywhere they get opportunity. And you got to look at the kid and figure out if they're going to fit into that area or not.
Moorhead, Minnesota, right across the river from Fargo. From those of you that know it, of course, the hat, if you're watching on video, I am wearing an NDSU hat. My nephew lives there, and of course, your brother coached there. There are a few places in this planet that are colder than Fargo Moorhead in January. And it goes back to a story your brother told me on this show a while back about wanting to win a national championship, and Jay Robinson going, what's the weather have to do with you winning a national championship? So that's a line that you coaches out in the warmer climates that have to send your kids, those that don't stick around and go to Vanguard or Life Pacific or up to Menlo or Division II at San Francisco State. Of course, we've got California Baptist Division I moving into Division I now. Those are things you can use to your advantage, because if J-Rob says that you got a Southern California kid to go to Minnesota in the wintertime, it can work.
Hey, definitely can. And that's it. When he went out there, he's like, "What's the weather had to do with you?" That's so
yeah. I think he told the same thing to me when he brought me out to work on Wrestling 411. At this point, 13 years ago. Now, with the growth of it, we've also got the drawback of Fresno State lost its program, and from again a California perspective, when it brought it back, how much of a plus was that for you, not just you personally, but you for your kids and them having a Division I opportunity, and how much does this hurt not just the California wrestling community, but just the California community at large, to where there's an opportunity with low income first generation college students, which is where wrestling really does kind of put those kids in schools there. How much does Fresno State really just it hurts the entire state, not just with wrestling?
It just hurts the whole, the whole culture of wrestling. Losing a program is never good. It's unfortunate that we are losing that program that was in the hotbed of one of the best wrestlings in California, and they were getting better. They were definitely doing a great job, and it's unfortunate those kids cannot attend there and wrestle no more.
When we look at the next steps for you, you're off now. You get to actually enjoy watching like a lot of the D1 season and stuff. So when it comes to, all right, you're off. I know, Coach Pacheco always said, yeah, I get to go watch my guys at the D2 and the NAIAs, and I get to go to the D1 Nationals. What do you get to do during the traditional wrestling season now?
Unfortunately, I go hop out of high schools and stay busy coaching. So I hop out with San Marino High School. Uh, that's where the WIC came out of, and I've been there for 10 years hopping out, as a
Yeah,
coach.
and I guess the question is, how does that work? Because a lot of places you'd see below, how can you do the high school and the college thing at the same time? What are the I guess the wiggle room there that allows you to do that?
Like I said, I'm more of a just kind of volunteering and helping
Okay.
out there. But I just try to stay busy. I just trying to find a place who will take me in and help them coach a little bit. And I've been there for a while, and they've done a great job of keeping bringing back. And as much as telling myself I'm not going back, I'm going to take some time off. But there's no time off in coaching.
You've stood across the mat, in your own league against NCAA champions, and then you're in Southern California. There's been great wrestlers that are coaching at the high school level down there. Who was the most intimidated you've been by to stand across the mat coaching?
Yeah, I've never really paid attention to who am I competing against.
That's probably the right answer, but is there somebody that you remember like, well, wait a minute, whoa, that's so and so?
Honestly, no. I
No.
never really trust.
See, now this makes me tell a story about me coaching at the World Team Trials, and I'm looking across, and that's Dennis Hall and Jim Grunwald and JJ in the chair, and I'm like, I have no business being here. Not quite the same. Not quite the same.
Yeah,
But yeah, I was just curious, like when coaches come in and there's high profile names or NCAA champions, like, oh wow, okay, that's okay. I know what that's like.
yeah. I can't ever think of that. Like, oh, I'm coaching against someone else. Like, yeah, not talking about it. Not I got to think about that one.
Right. So what do we got coming back? It's again, it's a 2-year system. There is redshirting and such, but when it comes to building for the future, you don't really. It's a 2-year degree, so it's not like you can. Okay, I can build this 3-4 years. We can run off a string of these. For you to run off a string of titles in this league, it's very hard to do that. It's not happened a whole lot. It has happened, but what's it take for you year in year out to keep the personnel you've got, decide who wants to save that year of eligibility, bring in the new kids? I mean, where is that ebb and flow of personnel that helps a winning tradition stay winning?
I just tell my guys, let's continue to be competitive. They'll keep getting better, and if we continue better and score points, the winning's gonna take care of itself. And if we're winning state titles, that's amazing, great. But more anything is move on to the next level and get your degrees, college degrees.
As we wrap up here, is there something about I've gotten this question from a couple people. Again, the coaches in there. The selling point for the nation to pay attention to what you guys got going on in California, and specifically now you're the champs right now. You need to pay attention to the Mounties, which is not Canadian. Okay, Mount San Antonio, Mount Sac. So what's the sales pitch to say, hey, there's not a whole lot of college wrestling. As a matter of fact, there's no college wrestling going on in September and October. Give us a look. Let's pay some attention. We got some scrappers out here.
Yeah, we do definitely have scrappers, and like I said, we have some really talented guys that are in our system, and coaches should take the opportunity and look at our association as a overall. Each team brings their guys, and they're very coached up for the most part, and just kind of keep these kids need opportunities, so they're going to be looking for the next opportunity after they're done here.
Been talking with David Rivera, the head coach at Mount San Antonio College, the Champs, the California champs. There's a Bad News Bears reference in there for you. Follow them on Twitter at Mount Sac, MTSAC Wrestling. Also, want to thank a couple of our patrons, Leroy Gardner, head coach at the University of the Ozarks in Arkansas, jumping in, as well as Eric Kreese. His son Paxton wrestles at St. Cloud State. They're following Short Time and the Rap Sheet on Matt Talk Online because of the small college coverage. And guess what? This is an example of it. So California people, wave and say hi to Mr. Rivera. He's got some champs now. You know, all those guys that have all got the other titles, guess what? Once you win one, apparently it's a little easier to win the second one since you know what it's like to do the hard work. But Coach Rivera, anything you'd like to say in the time we've got left to take us home and say, you know, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and go Mounties, right?
Yeah, that's you said it all right there. So just thank you and happy holidays to everybody, and thank you for having me on.